Good morning, everybody. This is your host, Phil McIntyre from The Heard Word. Over the past few weeks, we've been covering the story of an emergency scene up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Today, we decided we would recap on everything that's been going on, give you the latest, and then read your letters that you've been sending in to us. So it all started back in 2007 when an emergency scene decided to start holding shows in the basement of the Jagged Street United Methodist Church, which is right across the street from Sheetz convenience stores. Now that street is 17th Street, one of the most busy streets in Altoona, and teenagers from the show were crossing over that street to get some refreshments over at Sheetz. Now this caused a problem amongst the community. Many people were sending in complaints saying that the kids were going to get hit, they were in the way, blah blah blah. Well, it finally did happen. Young Jack Martin, a 15-year-old pole vaulter from Altoona High School, decided he was going to impress his friends and pole vault over 17th Street. Sure enough, his idea did not work out, and he ended up in a coma at Altoona Hospital. And this caused a huge problem for Joanne and Ryan Wapner, the founders of an emergency scene. Ever since then, the Wapners have been reporting lower numbers of attendees at their shows. After a few interviews, we figured out that parents are actually discouraging their kids from going, saying that the Wapners are irresponsible and the shows are not run properly. Later that week, the Wapners were notified of a lawsuit pending against them from Jack Martin's parents. They alleged that the mismanagement of the shows led to their son's destructive actions. The Wapners' only comment was, "We aren't babysitters." Going forward, the clergy of the United Methodist Church decided to boot the emergency scene out of their venue, saying that it is too much of a burden for them to bear in case anything were to happen again. This, of course, was devastating to the Wapners because they had built quite a reputation at their venue for the past 2 years. After a few weeks out of the game, an emergency scene found a new venue in Altoona Terrace, an 80s lounge/nightclub. Many of the patrons don't feel at home here quite like they did at the United Methodist Church. They say the atmosphere just isn't the same. The Wapners are also having troubles getting the reputable bands like they used to be able to, like All Time Low, Valencia, and 4 Years Strong. They say the numbers just aren't enough for them to be able to pay these kinds of bands. So what are these kids doing now instead of going to these shows? Well, the number of drug-related crimes in the past couple months has gone up. Is this coincidence? We asked you what you thought, and here's what you had to say. One of you said this: "Before the recent events, I didn't think that the shows were beneficial in any way to our community. But the numbers don't lie. I don't think that this is coincidental at all. My own granddaughter even told me that people at school say that there isn't anything better for them to do now, so they just go to parties, and who knows what happens there." Somebody else said, "These shows were obviously a burden to our society. I always saw that group of hoodlums standing outside around the doors of that church smoking their cigarettes. It's disgraceful. The accident was just waiting to happen because the kids just get all fired up and stop thinking. I think that, if anything, these kids are just doing more drugs than they already had been before. They just have more opportunities to get caught." We also asked, should a family attack a local organization just to justify their child's questionable actions? One of you said no. It is absolutely ridiculous for the Martins to go after the Wapners, as if it were their fault. They're just looking for somebody to blame because they're too embarrassed to admit that what their son did was very stupid. Another one of you said, "I wouldn't see it as a fair thing to do. However, the show should be supervised better so that they can't get into this situation. They're an organization, and if they were beginning to get as popular as they were, they should come up with a better way of managing their events." The latest information that we have received is that Mrs. Martin is now going after the driver of the vehicle and the entire United Methodist Church organization of Pennsylvania. Allegations are unknown. Thank you for listening. This has been The Heard Word.